All right, guys. So since we covered the Moondrop old-fashioned like retro style headphones about a month or so ago, I've actually become quite obsessed with owning headphones in that style. It just kind of brings back a really good time in my life, and it's just actually kind of cool to look at. So KOSS is a brand that is very well known for obviously having this style of headphone. And so I wanted a Bluetooth version. So today we're going to check out the KOSS KPH30. Now this is a wireless version of the retro on-ear style headphones. And it even comes in this pretty cool like beige looking color, which kind of has that retro look to it. Now, it is also available in a gray / black model if you want something that's a little more subtle. But the KPH30 is a very comfortable, extremely lightweight headphone. It's basically all plastic all around, but everything feels very tight. It doesn't feel like, there's that loose plastic, something that has a lot of wiggle to it. It does have this little floating silicone headband. And honestly, I don't really know why they need this because it is so lightweight. It's not putting any kind of weight on the top of your head. And again, it's just extremely comfortable to wear. Now, the ear pads on here in the typical retro style does have the foam flat look to it. It is an open back style of headphone, so always keep that in mind that anything that you are going to listen to, people around you are basically going to be able to hear everything that you're listening to. Now, as far as the actual controls, since this is a wireless model, it is Bluetooth 5.2. It is using physical buttons. So you have 3 buttons on the right side. This allows you to play, pause, skip your tracks forward, go backwards, and also have volume control all on the headphones themselves. Now, it does use a USB-C connection, and inside the box, that's all you're getting is a simple USB-A to USB-C cable to plug in and charge these. And speaking of the charging, battery life, you can look to get about 20 hours on a single charge. Now, initially, you're probably going to think that's not great battery life because we've seen pairs that have 50 hours, 100 hours. But in a pair that they're having to keep this small, I kind of get why there are some limitations, especially when it comes to the battery life. Now, price-wise, these also come in pretty inexpensive. Now, it says that they retail for $59, but right now on Amazon, there's like 15% off, so you can actually get these for about $50. Now, there is an option to use these in wired mode, but you do have to spend about $20 more to get the KOSS USB-C to 3.5mm cable. It does have the little box, which adds a microphone on the cable. It also gives you some controls on the cable itself, but I honestly think it would have been nice to have KOSS just include this cable in with the headphones and maybe just bump it up $10 to $15. So, if you do want to use these in wired mode, if you do want to use them for like editing, or if you're going to sit there and watch a movie and you don't want to have to worry about lag or anything like that, just plug into your laptop or whatever, do know you're going to have to spend a little bit more to get that cable. But if you just want a wired version of these, they do also sell the KP30i, and this is basically the wired version of the KPH30s. But the cool thing about these is they are offered in this really nice, just clear version. I honestly think if the KPH30s came in clear, that would be the first model that I would buy. There's something about having this clear look, being able to see the internals, and it just, again, kind of adds to the retro look that these have. Now, if you are going to use these for taking phone calls in wireless mode, like I said, there is a mic that's already built onto these, so you could just take a phone call that way. And I think the mics, for the most part, are pretty decent, but you guys can be a judge by listening to a quick test here. So here is a quick mic test outdoors using the KPH30s. Not really a whole lot of noise going on. I think I can hear some cars over to the left and maybe just a little bit of wind, but definitely nothing serious. But this is really just to give you an idea of what it would sound like if you were to take a call public. So now let's talk about the sound. And honestly, this is just a fun all-around headphone. It's not meant to be flat. It's not meant to be boring. It's not meant to be neutral. It is definitely boosted in different areas, especially when it comes to the low end. It actually was kind of surprising how much punch that these had, not only because this is an open back, but because it is the flatter style ear pad, and it's that foam ear pad. So you kind of expect some of this to just kind of leak and not really have the impact that the low end does. But it definitely can hit when it comes to bass. It's just not one of those that picks up sub bass very well. So, honestly, don't expect that subwoofer type feel. But the mids on these are bumped slightly forward, so vocalists are always a little bit more up front. There's a lot of details in certain guitars and certain instruments where the mids are pulling it out. And the treble on these was it's kind of hard to explain this because at a normal, just medium, listening volume, I would say that these are pretty detailed. It does have a slight amount of warmth to it, not a whole lot, but it's not like overly harsh. It's not overly bright. Doesn't have that sparkle to it where it's too much until you start to turn the volume up on these. Now that's where I started to notice that these are fairly bright. Some people might even find it to be a little too harsh if you're going to listen to them at loud volumes, but I honestly don't even recommend doing that because this pair can get a little too loud in my opinion. I was definitely surprised at the volume output on these. So I would still, kind of recommend listening to them at about 50 to maybe 70% volume. And then anything after that is honestly very, very loud. And then when it comes to the soundstage and the sound imaging, it does a really good job of sounding very open, but it also does a really good job of being able to pick apart and tell where different sounds are coming from. And this is not something that you would generally expect in a $50, $60 pair of headphones. So my overall opinion on these are they're fantastic. I don't know if it's again because I am just stuck in this retro style of headphone, just looking for things that stand out when it comes to this, and being able to have a wireless version, although kind of limited to only having 20 hours is just kind of feels a little limited, but the sound quality that KOSS is able to do in the KPH30s was very, very surprising. I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people, not only for its looks, but also for the fact that, it doesn't really feel like you have anything on your head. And honestly, it's one of those you can just go about your day, put them on your head, throw them in a bag, not really necessarily worry that you're going to damage them. I would have liked to have seen them at least come with like a little travel pouch, so at least it had something to go in. But the plastic build, even though it is plastic, doesn't feel fragile at all. But the thing to really take away from these is the sound, in my opinion, is excellent, and the price is extremely low for what you're getting. But guys, that wraps up my video on the KOSS KPH30 wireless headphones. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.